Okay, we don't think we will take the whole time today, and thank you for allowing us to push back the time since Lindsay and Sam and a couple others from our team are presenting. We wanted to make sure that they would be able to log on right after. So they will be towards the end of the webinar today, and I'll kick us off. Maybe. A little delay there. Okay. So here's our agenda. We just have a couple of grant and fiscal updates. Chris is going to talk for a few minutes. And then Sam and Lindsay will hopefully pop on at the end to talk about the CLNA and a few wrap-up items. And like I said, I don't think we will take the extended time that we have allotted in the calendar. So we will see. Your questions are always welcome, of course. Okay, look at the calendar. We are approaching December already. So I think we have a couple of districts, maybe two, who still need to submit their first invoice. Try to get those in as soon as you can. And I'll talk a little bit more about some other fiscal items. So we have completed phase 1 monitoring. We are going to begin phase 2, or some of you will begin implementing and uploading some items for us for phase 2. And so that's also listed there in December. So not much coming up next month. And then my updates, we are trying to formalize equipment disposal. And so the regulations require districts to notify the pass-through entity of disposing of equipment that was purchased with Perkins. And to date, that has primarily happened through emails to me. And then I would give some guidance on, depending on the price or the threshold of the value of the item, what you needed to do with it. So we're trying to formalize that in Indie Grants. You may have or may not have noticed that there is a new button when you log into Indie Grants and right-click. There's the invoice button, and now you'll see an equipment disposal button. You will submit your request to dispose of equipment in the same way that you request reimbursement or an asset form. And so that process will be very much the same. We are working through some issues with actually submitting that form. So look for an email from me when we have that ready to go. I will send like a quick start guide or a quick video on how to submit. And then I will also share an equipment policy that you will have access to as the first start of a Perkins manual. So that's exciting and has been a long time coming. So we'll be glad to roll that out, and then you will have access to all of those disposal forms, and those won't lie in emails anymore. And then I mentioned this at the webinar, just in case you weren't there. Reserve grants were just submitted. We received 44 applications, and that was a combination of secondary and post-secondary, and that equated to more than $5 million of requested funds. We are scoring those now for new directors, and as a reminder to others, our entire team scores those. The rubric is posted on the website, and we will utilize that to, as a team, score and make decisions on those grants. So future notice will come in inboxes probably mid-December. That's the goal. And then just the updates on this year's basic grant. I mentioned during the updates on the calendar, everyone has submitted at least one invoice on this grant. I think we're just missing 2 districts. You probably, if you are one of those 2, it might have been 3 districts, you might have gotten an email from Kathleen just reminding that Q1 due date has passed for invoices. And then now, if you are a quarterly If you submit invoices quarterly, then you have until January, at the end of January to submit your quarter two. Many of you submit monthly and have many invoices in the system, but we do have district for each year. So that's the deadline if that is you. A few notes on monitoring. Um, and I'll probably spend just a couple of minutes here to talk about scores and what we saw, what I saw with scores. Um, your scores are available in Indie Grants. You will right click on your grant and then one of the selections I think says view scores.
Risk scores.
Risk scores. View risk
I
scores.
believe that's what it
I
says.
think you will know. View risk scores. I will also get you the breadcrumbs there in the follow-up email. So your scores are in the system. If you have been selected to move forward to phase two, you have already received an email from me. So if you did not receive an email from me, then you are just going to review your scores and you might do a comparison between the previous year and this year. And let me know if you are not able to see scores or if they don't seem to have been updated, but those were just updated, I think, today. So they are in, and let me know if you have questions about what you see. But those who are moving to phase two, I will work with. There's some uploads that you will complete. I attached like a 4-minute video, not professional, but a 4-minute video for how to navigate to those envelopes. And the due date for those will be December 19th. A couple of details about scores, because as you can see on this chart here, at first glance, you might be concerned. And I am not concerned, so I will share why. Last year's rubric, a couple of examples about especially that programming. I don't want you or our team to look at those scores and conclude that programming has really tanked. So here's why I think improvement was still and can be noted in that programming section. A couple of things we did as Kinsauer called himself a relentless incrementalist, right? Like making baby steps of improvement. And I would say we are trying to lean into that in terms of monitoring. And one way we did that is in the programming part of the rubric. Last year, the field that we scored said something like for 10 points, you had to have adoption forms mostly complete. On this year's rubric, that similar field says, for 10 points, says all adoption forms are complete but lack detail. And so you could be a district who got 10 points in that section last year, 10 points in that section this year, but maybe you completed a lot of adoption forms. Maybe you did a lot of work to improve that field, and then your score was still 10 points. So that's where I think I would note that diving in and noting that if your score stayed the same in that field and you have adoption forms completed in the system now, that could be noted as an improved action, even though your score did not decrease. So there were a couple of scenarios where we just kind of raised the bar just a little bit, and I suspect that's part of that programming jump. In addition, we added 10 points to that section. So an additional 10 points was added to programming, and we removed 10 possible points in the MOA portion. And so you can see there, MOA had a jump down, but we removed 10 points as possible even in that section. So that makes sense. And then the increased scores, including that additional 10 possible points, makes that jump make sense as well. So these are just averages across all secondary districts over the last 2 years. We can use this to look at monitoring scores across time. You could use this to compare your section scores to like state average, and see how it went apples to apples. And then you could also look at your score last year and your score this year, but also keeping in mind that we did make some tweaks to the rubric, and it may not show exactly the efforts that you made in terms of like your final total score. So just, be easy on yourself, but I think there is some data that you can utilize to determine which section you might want to work on. And if you scored very high in programming, it may just be you needing to elevate that bar for the adoption forms. Data really stayed similar. Fiscal, just to note fiscal, there weren't any changes in the rubric. And so improvement there. Thank you as that leg of the team. So thank you for that. And that's a lot of work, probably not only with you, but with the folks that help you with the fiscal side of Perkins. So pass any improvement on to those folks as well. So a couple other things I just added here as just a little bit of a data nerd. The average score this year was 176. So if you want to compare your total score to the average score, that could be something that you look at. And then the cut score for moving to phase two is 220. So if you see 220 or more, you likely received an email from me. And that can help you, kind of see how far away you were from being in phase two, or actually how close you were to being in phase two, and then dive into the scores from there. So I talked a little bit about why scores may have gone up. Even with that, we had 20 districts who improved their score. So when you think about the jump of improvement just to meet the tweaks of the rubric and then improving the total score, I think that is something to celebrate. And since Christy Reitzman did the session, I don't know if she's on the call. I hope so. But if not, then please share with her. Since Christy Reitzman shared at the conference last year about her phase three visit, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. Hoosier Hills improved their score by over 130 points. And I hope what that says is that technical assistance and monitoring is not anything except to support a district in improvement. And she was a new director. She walked in her first year to a visit, a full day, lots of communication from our team. She had to provide a ton of information to our team, and it was information that she had to locate. She did not develop it, store it. And so, despite all of that, 130 points is dramatic. There was another district who improved by 80 points, and then multiple districts between 10 and 40. So of those 20, I mean, really 2 or 3 districts really made a lot of changes seemingly to improve some of their processes. So just if you see that your score improved, there's a couple of reasons why you might want to celebrate, even if it was just a little nudge of 5 or 10 points. I think that's a big deal. So that's it for monitoring. Once we complete the phase two process with those 10 districts in phase two, we will select 3 for a site visit, similar to what we did last year. Any questions? Reserve grant submission or decisions, monitoring. I could take those now. You'll have to unmute me because I can't see the chat.
Hi, I'm Angela from District 3B, Maryville. I received the email. Can I set up a separate meeting with you guys to go over that information since I'm new.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I will send you an email with some dates and we can touch base.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi, I had a question. What was I know there was $5 million requested for reserve grants. Was it 2 million that was that we had to choose from?
Yeah, great question, Brian. We budgeted 2 million out of the 25 grant. We will also utilize anything that was left over from the last year's basic distribution. And I think I'll have a number today. I think it was around 500 to 600,000. Um, and we will award that as well through reserve. That funding will have a shorter time period. So any district that receives that 24 money will need to have spent it by June. Anything in that 2 million, those grants will have a longer period. And we try to be intentional with who gets kind of that short turnaround money.
Thank you. And then a follow-up question. Angela was asking about setting up a separate meeting. I was pulled for a phase 2 audit. I don't know if she is as well. But if so, I'd like to be maybe tied to that meeting, just being new and
Sure.
wanting to make sure that I get everything. I can follow the email and I think the video, but I feel good about being included in that. Angela, are you phase 2? Okay, she's thumbs up on that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, that'd be great. And actually, both of your comments, I may just send that offer to anyone in phase 2, if that's okay with you, and do a more of a group check-in on that. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Good idea. Okay. I think I'm trying to move the slides. Oh, there. I think it's Chris's turn.
All right. So those of you who were not at the meeting on Tuesday, talked about this a little bit there. So this is the 30A result for this year. So it was 221, almost 222 million. Last year it was almost 218. So we're up $4 million. Then the categories of classes. So PCC, there were almost 60,000 enrollments. That's up 11% from the previous year. Intro classes are down 10%. The level 1 pathway courses, so the principles, the A and the B, those were down from 73% to 71% of the total enrollment, but they actually went up from 283,000 enrollments to 289,000. So the enrollments went up, but it's a little bit less of the total. Capstones were down from 4% to 3%. There were 12,500 capstone enrollments. Then work-based learning is the one that surprised me a little bit. I thought they would be up more than it was. So it was up. It went from 2% to 3%. It was 9,600 enrollments, went up to almost 11,000. So yeah, so that's that. Then the special topics up at the bottom, you can see that was basically the same. So that's kind of the summary of the 30A for this year. Everything's been sent to DOE, and I think they're due to start, I think at the first of the year, first of December to start paying out the new amount. So any questions about the 30A stuff? If anybody has specifics for your area or something, we can talk about those things. Just give me a call or an email. If there are no questions, we can go to the next one. Maybe.
Maybe. I think I'm on a delay. I don't. Okay. Is that the next one or did I go too far?
I have no idea.
Oh,
So, work-based learning reporting. So just a few things here. So, we are recording a webinar. We were going to do it yesterday, but we did not do it yesterday because I'm not satisfied with the import. So basically, we're going to do a webinar probably, I'm hoping on Monday at this point. And it's not going to be a live webinar. We're going to just do the thing, record it, and then just send it out to Counselor Talk. We're going to put it on the newsletter. We'll send it out to our contacts. But on just how to add work-based learning information if you don't typically use inters, or if you have students that are not CTE students that are going to be going into 0543 to put the hours for work-based learning. It'll be just kind of instructions for people that are doing that kind of stuff. If typically an inters user, you can still use the regular and probably should use the regular template to just upload hours when you do your stuff in the fall and the spring at the end of the year. But it'll be more for those people, although anyone could use this new import for work-based learning if they want. It wouldn't stop anyone from using it. It would still work. So that's going to go out. I hope to, again, record it early next week and then send it out. I don't know when those the next ones will go out, and then the Counselor Talk. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I'm going to get that out there, and then as soon as we get it recorded, we'll send it out to all of our contacts. So hopefully by the end of next week. Another kind of update. So just something to think about, I guess. There's going to be more and more of these schools that are doing work-based learning that may be non-CTE students, or they may be wanting to do things, add enrollments for summer in 0543, or add hours for work-based learning in enrollments that you don't have in inters currently. Those people are going to either need to send those things to you guys or to your data people, or you need to give them access. So if these schools are in your area, in your district, you might want to think about access and what that looks like and what you want to give them. I just want to kind of lay the groundwork for this and get you thinking about it. I know right now we've got I know Jed was working through them, 30 requests that have come in the last few days for access. I don't know. We haven't gone through them all. I'm sure some of them are these people that are trying to do work-based learning. So you might just be thinking about that. When we get those, we will route them through you guys. So when Jed gets them, he sends an email. He looks up what school they're from and whose district it is. He'll send you an email, and you can determine if you want to give them access, or depending on what access they're requesting. If it's just work-based learning or whatever, you can tell us to give it to them, but only give them this, or only give them read only. So I want you guys to know when that request comes, it's not all or nothing. You can give them read only, or they can have write access, but also just to certain areas in the system. So keep that in mind and be thinking about it. Also, if you say, hey, I want to give all my schools access to do work-based learning import, then you can just tell us that, and we can work on it. So just be thinking about what you want to do and how you want to handle that going forward. That's just wanted to put that out there, and we can set the users up accordingly. So, okay. Any questions about that stuff? And I'm going to show you a little handout on the screen.
I have a question, Chris.
Go ahead.
Would you prefer us initially sending you an email? Let's say if I want to add my guidance team to that work-based learning reporting, would you prefer me sending you an email with their email addresses, or do you want them to request it on the Data Explorer page?
It doesn't matter. I think it can go either way. If you have, if you wanted to do all your schools or something, you could send us a message that has the people and what their email address is, and we can set it up, do it that way, or you can have them request it. It doesn't make any difference. The only issue is if you have them request it through the system, then we'll have to look up the judge will look up what school they're from, and he'll send you an email anyway. So we can cut that process. You just send us the email and we'll take care of it. So
Thank you.
okay, no problem. All right, so I just want to go through real quick. Some of you have maybe seen this. We went through this at the trainings, but a lot of you obviously senior data person, you may not have seen this before. We did give them a copy when they left, but you may not have seen it. So I just want to real quick run through and see if there's any questions. But this is kind of about it's some of the rules around work-based learning and what needs to be put in and how it works. So in terms of work-based learning for funding, okay, they have to have at least 75 hours in the work-based learning course. So this is 6162 054, or I'm sorry, 0530 5974, and then the two apprenticeship 6148 6149. Those are the work-based learning classes. Those classes, in order to get funded, you have to have at least 75 hours in the expected hours in the fall. They have to have the little box checked that says that you have a partnership agreement. So that means what that's telling us is, among other things, that you have a training plan. Everything except 6162, you have to have that. So 6162 is the exception. So for funding, 6162 does not need that. The rest of them do. You have to have two employment types selected. So in the past, this would give you an error on the screen, but it would not give you a funding error. Now this is a funding error. A lot of you went through this and maybe found this out this year, but you have to have either paid or unpaid, one of those things selected, and then one of the types. And there's like 9 different types, like a internship is one of the types. So there's different types. You pick one of each to be 2 total for types. Then you have to have an employer name, an employer start date, and you have to have a SOC code. For 5974, that SOC code has to match through the cluster back to an enrollment that the student is in. So a pathway the student is enrolled in has to be in the same cluster as the cluster or as one of the clusters that the SOC code is. Sometimes the pathway or the cluster may be in multiple pathway or SOC code may be in multiple clusters. As long as they have a common cluster, it's a match. That's only 5974. The others doesn't have to match. They all have to have a SOC code, but they don't have to match back except for 5974. Having said all that, I see a question. I'll get through and then we'll answer questions here. But then for SEALs, okay, you have to have at least 25 hours to count as an experience. So if you have a student who is in a class and they're doing work-based learning and you don't have, and this is at the end of it. So this would be the actual hours. So at the end of the year, an experience has to have at least 25 hours in the actual to count as an experience for the SEALs. Okay, 25 is the minimum. They all have to have the partnership box checked so they have to have training plans. That has to be, so even for 6162, okay, we said for funding, it doesn't need to have that, but for the SEAL, it does. So for 6162 to count for both, you'll have to have that box checked and have a training plan. One employer equals one experience. What that means is if you have a student who has multiple experiences with one employer. So let's say they worked as a junior, they were in 5974, and then they went out and worked at AutoZone or something. And then the next year they come back as a senior and they're in work-based learning. They go back and they're continuing to work at AutoZone, maybe doing different jobs or whatever. Those two for the SEALs get added together, and that only counts as one experience. So if they did 75 hours last year, 75 hours this year, they have 150 hours total for that one experience. Then the top 3 experiences will get counted for the SEAL. So if a student has 5 different experiences, we only count the top 3 in terms of the hours. And if you have, again, 2 that are the same employer, those get counted as only 1. So I hope that makes sense. We can answer questions if we need to. 75 hours equals 1 personalized elective credit. So there's that one. There's going to be maybe some nuance to that. We may have to change it a little bit based on conversations. We're trying to come to agreement on how that's going to work. But right now, if you look in the Data Explorer, it tells you how many personalized elective credits they have earned. It counts every 75 hours as 1 credit. So there may be some changes. Like, for instance, we may not count all of the credits, all the hours earned in a capstone, because they have to have a certain number of hours in a capstone if they're doing it for 6 credits. So those may get subtracted from the count for the seal. So I don't know. Well, that's all being talked about, or for the personalized elective credit act. Sorry, not for the seal. But right now, and until further notice, 75 hours equals 1 credit. There's no other rules until if that changes, we will let you know. Then the last thing on this is 0543 is the new course that we have added to the system. It has no other requirements, just the requirements for what you're doing it for. So if you're putting in work-based learning hours and the student isn't in a CTE course at all, or if they're doing it during the summer, you can put those hours into 0543, and you can put them in at any time. You can put them in at any point during the school year. You can add the enrollments. You can use this new import that we're talking about, or you could use the regular import to add them. And you just have to follow the rules of the seal, which is the part above, 25 hours, the training plan, 75 hours, 1 employer, 1 experience, all that stuff. Use those rules for the 0543, and then those hours would count toward seals and personalized electric credits. So 0543 is the course. And when you go to import, there's rules we have on there, tells you how to use that, how to import that course. It doesn't have to have credits. You just put in the employer and the hours and everything, and then those count. So we've already talked about the other thing. So is there any questions about that stuff? I just wanted to make sure. Some of you probably haven't seen this stuff, and some of that may be new to some of you. So is there any questions about any of those things? Somebody has their hand up. Oh, Brian. Go ahead.
So you were given some numbers there for the 75 hours that requires the partnership agreement and training plan. And they were 5974, 6148, 6149, and then the first one was 053.
That's the career exploration intern, or whatever, CEI.
Oh no.
Okay.
Those are the 4 that you have to have for funding.
Not
you
yet.
have to have
But
training
I'm gonna be
plan.
looking into it.
And then 6162 doesn't.
Okay. Jed's got his mic on, so I couldn't hear you. So back to the 75 hour. What was the 053 number?
So the 75 hours is for funding. They have to have 75 hours to get funded, and all the work-based learning courses fall under that rule. So it's 0530, the CEI, 5974, which is the work-based learning capstone, 6162, which is co-op, and then 6148 and 6149, which are the apprenticeship ones. All of them have to have 75 hours expected in order to be funded. But 6162 doesn't need the training plan. Again, for funding. For SEALs, they all need the training plan.
Okay. And then is that information in this document or someplace where I can get it?
Probably it's in this handout. So if Jed is mic off listening, he could maybe send this out to everybody when we're done.
That would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
Here, hi everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, great. Just one thing on it. Really, the only thing that we did there is it's flagging it now if you're not meeting the minimum expectation of the course as prescribed in the course titles and description. So the course titles and description says this is the minimum number of hours for this course. And so it has to have the minimum number of expected hours to be funded on the front end. Next for
Hillary, did you have a question?
Good morning. Yes, I did have a question. So I'm meeting with my team, and part of that is our guidance director today. So when I give her an update, and we're reviewing tracking systems as well. So we met with Job Ready 360, and we also met with Zello and Naviance, and we're trying to find the best platform to adopt for our school system. So these decisions are kind of being made right now for us. So, you know, we really do need guidance and some solidifying of rules and what counts and what doesn't count, regarding the seals. So if you can get some urgency, that would push this along, that would help. So first, that's my comment, and thanks for all the work you're doing to try to advocate, for students. But my question too is on the work-based learning side, the 0543. So a kid works over summer, and I know that you've talked about this at the state conference and everything. So kid works over the summer. We have a training plan set up in the spring with our work-based learning coordinator that can count towards the SEALs, correct? Whether it's enrollment, employment, or enlistment. Well, enlistment doesn't need them, but.
Yeah, the hours, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
We have also some examples of great partnerships with multiple partners to get experiences, seeing various careers in the field. So agriculture has gone to, I think, 7 field trips now at this point. State Fair, ConAgra, lots of different experiences. So using those experiences, because they are about the learning and understanding, in that field, is not a valid thing unless it's 25 hours, or do we put those as a consortium of experiences, or how does that get documented? I can't hear you.
Thoughts on it. He's hopefully can still hear.
Oh, am I? Are we deferring? Sorry, we had just jumped on here and someone was Hillary. Sorry, can you?
I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
I can say
My
what she's saying.
apologies. Yeah.
She has they have a group of like students who they go out and do short visits at different employers, less than 25 hours, but together they're plenty of hours to put in. So she's asking, should they put them all together and enter them as one? Because if they enter them separately, they're not going to count for anything.
Because all of the softwares that we're
we-
using are tracking field trip experiences, that's shadowing, that's, you know, that's exposure. That is on the work-based learning continuum. So I'm
But-
arguing that we need to count those in some kind of way. So can we get a unified code to put in? Like mixture of egg experiences? Do we have to have one specific employer?
I mean, we are happy to talk with anyone about specifics you might have when you're kind of like rotating through different things or something like that. I know some of you have different dynamics with certain programs, but like if I'm doing a job shadow for a day at an employer, that is a great experience. That the intention of kind of the policy set forward is that would not count for SEAL purposes, and you would not need to record that for those purposes. If as a district you want to be recording those type of things for just kind of your career exposure, career advising. We're going to have every student do these type of experiences or that kind of thing. That's something you could certainly do through your whatever platform a district chose. But as far as for SEAL reporting purposes, experiences that are shorter than the 25 hours would not need to be captured.
Okay, but I don't think you understand what we're doing here. Like, this is sat down with the advisory board, and we actually have them like recommending employers to go to for these experiences to see what agriculture looks like in various areas, right? And this is very intentionally and planned out for the whole year. That is learning.
Yeah, we can discuss kind of
So-
the specific, but I don't think like if you were saying to me something like, okay, as part of this program, students visit 4 or 5 different employers for a day each.
See the notes underneath.
Which maybe
Right.
I missed, maybe that's not.
I mean,
then
shadowing
that-
usually is only for a day at a time. I mean,
Yeah,
people don't really shadow for
You're
two.
right. So
too
job
long.
shadowing
So-
is both shorter than, like, it doesn't meet the definition because it's shorter, and then generally job shadowing would also separately not meet the definition because it's not like it's not a experience that would meet other elements of the work-based learning definition, like aligned and evaluated with competencies and like
Okay, let
there's
me give you an
no,
example, Sam,
like-
just so I have
Yeah.
some specifics. And then we can move on. But we had kids go set up 25,000 rabbit cages at some big convention at the state fairgrounds. So they were helping get things ready in the agriculture
Mhm.
industry and preparing them. So that was a 1-day experience, a field trip. Then we had kids go work at the pork tent and help break down the pig and sell the pork and the meat.
Yeah.
So these are all experiences. They're at doing different things in the ag industry. So what do we have as a tool to compile those to meet this 25 requirement? Because this is all legitimately planned out experiences with our advisory board and team.
The I guess if anyone, for Hillary or for anyone else, we are welcome to review like a specific thing that you are setting forward. From what you've described here, I think I would, again, I don't know all the details, but those sound like legitimate experiences, but they do not meet the baseline that has been set in the policy.
Right. So that's why I'm saying we need to have discussions around that.
Like there has to be some minimum hours that was decided upon for the sustained interactions piece, right? Someone could argue for 20, someone could argue for 50, right? I'm not going to say that like there's certainly a good argument someone could make for that sustained interactions, that piece being defined in a particular in a slightly different way. But that is how it's been defined there. So unless the experience is like multiple things at the same employer, that you could probably make more like, okay, they went, they did 3 separate day-long experiences at the same employer, and cumulatively together, I'm calling that one experience that was 30 hours or whatever the case might be. I could certainly see something like that. But if it's distinct experiences that are completely different, that each do not independently meet the the threshold, then as the policy has been set forward right now, those would not be able to be captured for seal purposes. Jason, I don't know if
Okay, thank you.
sorry, Hillary, yeah, but for cutting off there, but I was gonna, Jason's kind of relates, but I'm not sure. Can you explain what you're asking? Or maybe someone else understands what he's asking. If Chris, if you do, or jump in.
What he's asking is like the same what Hillary was just saying. It would, if they put them in as shorter, smaller experiences, would, we were saying they have to have 150 hours if they're doing 6 credits of a capstone. He's saying,
Oh,
would
for
that count?
capstone.
Would those count toward the 150 if they enter them as short
Yeah,
experiences?
because when you're doing it for the capstone, you're just reporting embedded hours in your capstone. So you can, yes, we have not set a limitation, I guess, on
That's right. There's no limitation the way everything works on that.
with the capstone. So yes, yes, you can for kind of that, and again, that's more of a that's more of a like a policy recommendation, not necessarily a hard, like we did not pull funding if you did not have the 150 hour. We've been emphasizing that more and more. So that what Jason is referring to here, right, is that if you're enrolling a student for 6 credits in a capstone, then the expectation is that you're using 2 of those 6 credits for work-based learning, which would be 150 hours. So for those 2 credits, no, we have not implemented some sort of number of experiences limitation.
All right. All right. Is there any other questions about this work-based learning stuff that we showed? Also, Jed has emailed out the handout, so you all have that handout now in your inbox, I think. All right. No questions about that. So real quick, so 3S1, if you have 3S1 entries that you want to make, so to put in the student is employed or in the military or in college, you can do those up until December 12th, the end of the day on December 12th. That if we have everything done at that time, we're going to submit everything. So make sure if you want to make entries, you make them before the 12th of December. If you do go to run your report right now, your 3S1, just keep in mind, looking at your percentage, we don't have all the data matching done yet. So like, for example, our colleges, we don't have the data from the colleges yet. So if you have students that went to post-secondary in the state, there's a good chance we will find those once we get the file. So just keep that in mind. So what you're looking at is not like a final number from us. So, but if you want to make any entries, make them by the 12th of December. And we are on December 4th. This got sent out, I think, on Tuesday or earlier this week. We are going to do a webinar on December 4th that will go through all of the indicator calculations. So each indicator, what it means, how it's calculated, and then we will show you how to run audit reports so you can get the list of students and see who's counted, who's not counted, and why. And that's on December 4th, I think at 1 o'clock, but it was sent out yesterday. And I just listed on here the indicators, kind of what they are, just to 1S1 and 1S2 are graduation. 1S1 is on-time graduation. 1S2 is the 5-year graduation, same ones that DOE does. 2S1 is the academic proficiency. Can you go to the next one?
Sure.
2S1 is language arts, and then I went ahead and did all of them together. But the 2S1 through 2S3 are the academic ones. It's language arts, math, and science. 3S1 is placement, so that's post-graduation. Are they in military employment or college? Non-traditional concentration, again, that's based on gender only. And then the last 3 are the program quality indicators, attaining post-secondary credential. which is a graduation pathway approved certification or a college credential. Post-secondary credits, which is where that's CTE dual credits, and then participation in work-based learning is 5S3. So that's the kind of the overarching name of what the indicator is. We'll get into on that webinar. We'll get into how they're calculated. At the data committee meeting, we went through and kind of made a handout that I think I hope will make it very clear to everyone. You can see it, and we'll get that sent out to everybody else. So any questions about that? We can move on. Thank you.
Hi. All right, Lindsay and I are gonna jump in here for other parts, so forgive us because we're gonna have to tell Laura and to move the slides and things from our other location. But let's skip this for the moment and move to the next thing since we ended up taking we were thinking we didn't have as much content today, but all right. Just a few things and I said some of this on Tuesday, but so for 26-27 documents or resources that are coming, right? So we have the course titles and descriptions, that is tracking for an early December release. And that really will just be the titles and the descriptions. It will not have a lot of the bulleted point information that has been included in the past. And the reason being for that is that DOE released that companion document last year, and we're moving more and more to utilizing that as the resource that has all the different relevant information about the courses in it. And then, I mean, on our side too, we have the review document as well. So that companion document will be where you can find all the other information. All the information people actually care about is in the companion document. So the course description should just be the course in the description. That should come in the next few weeks. And then as part of that companion document piece, the main thing that we've been working on, other than just making sure everything is accurate and checking everything, is any changes to course eligibility for the different diploma categories. There was an initial memo in May, and then we've been doing some additional review on certain courses or have received feedback from folks. If we move to the next slide, this is just a summary of this is in that course eligibility memo from April. But I just wanted to kind of highlight this here. This is listed as the category it's under review for. So that the courses do not count as that category currently. They're under review for inclusion within that category. If there is anything on this list that you feel like a certain instructor that you have, etc., would feel particularly passionate as to whether or not it should be included or should not be included, then we are wrapping up feedback, but we would still take it right now. For example, something that's come up in recent weeks more strongly is the Project Lead the Way biomedical pathway. It's on there as counting as a science course right now, and a STEM course. Anything that counts as science also counts as STEM. Science is a narrower category within STEM, but there's kind of a separate designation for the enrollment seal for a lab science. And functionally, that means for that enrollment seal, there's a certain bucket of courses that can replace physics. Like you have to take biology, chemistry, and then physics or any other advanced lab science. So we are considering the merits of including those two concentrated courses in the biomedical pathway for that purpose. So that's one item. These are some other courses that are currently under review. This is all in that course eligibility memo. And if you would like to share any additional feedback on that, we are wrapping up that process within the next few weeks. We can move on funding memo, talked about this a lot last time, kind of walked through the different dynamics of that. It's all mostly wrapped up kind of at the higher level review process. I mentioned this kind of on Tuesday, especially the more prominent items. Our team has been getting engaged in a lot of a lot of different topics, credentials of value, et cetera, things that are connected to CTE, but are maybe not necessarily just the purview of our team. And that's been a really great thing that I think has happened more and more this year. That also means that in high priority items like this, like other eyes beyond me are seeing it, right? So we have kind of gotten the funding memo to a really solid place, but are connecting with different folks in vertical leadership as we prepare for the December state board meeting when that has to go through. So that will be going through in December as it does each year, and we will have an update for you as soon as we know definitively on any changes that may come about. We have recommended a few different policy options from, you have the data, what the data said cleanly, and then some policy options from there. If it kind of goes the most likely route that I anticipate, then the changes will be fairly minimal from the current memo. But again, still waiting some final decisions on different pieces there. So that's the funding memo, and we can go ahead from there. I'm not going to say much else here. We said this last month too, credentials of value, also tracking on trying to have an updated list within the next few weeks. This may end up getting bumped to early January just with the focus on the funding memo and the course aspects that we talked about and trying to get all of that out as quick as possible for planning purposes for next year in December. But we are close here to having, we've updated all the scores, or we've received the updates for the scores and doing the data refresh that we did in partnership with DWD. And now just kind of working through the different credentials that had been proposed for addition or things of that nature. We can move ahead from here. All right. Career guide, we've talked about that. It's finalized. It's available online. The link's here. And we will bring, given how the timing worked out, we'll bring paper copies to the January IACTED meeting. If you'd like to get them sooner than that, we should have them in like December 10th-ish. So let us know if you would like to try to get a copy sooner, but otherwise we'll plan on bringing those to January IACTED or getting them to folks in a different manner. You'll receive 40 to 50 copies for each district, and then you can allocate those however you see fit. I mentioned on Tuesday that if a counselor or somebody asks us, hey, can I get one copy? If their school's not interested in making a big order, we will be telling them, hey, we're giving a certain amount of copies to your ARC director. You may ask them if you can get one of their copies. We'll also be holding back some copies and fulfilling requests as they come in certain, if a person from a chamber of commerce reaches out to us or whatever the case might be. But if it's a school person within one of your districts, we'll probably point them to you as a first resource to acquire a copy. I want to say something else. Credential completion.
Yeah. So one other thing to share, we have been working with CIESC, so that's the Central Indiana Education Service Center, for those of you in Central Indiana, but every region has an education service center, and they put together some curriculum for us, about a week of lessons to go with our principals courses. All have a career navigation component in the course competencies. So we put that together for schools to be able to use, teachers to be able to use, to support students in that piece. And we think, so it'll be, we have it almost finished, and we'll be putting it on our website. But really think to share with your instructors, it will be valuable in this second semester as kids are working on scheduling, and maybe hopefully sort of thinking about that longer term plan, beyond just what classes am I taking in August. So we will be sure to share when that is available. And it will be both in Google and Microsoft. So whatever your school utilizes, or partner schools utilize, it should be accessible to everybody. We're just putting some finishing touches on like the marketing, logo, branding pieces. So we'll have that for everybody soon.
All right, we can, the only thing I'll say, I already said this other stuff, so the only thing I'll say here, did want to mention that some of you have been engaged, or we're aware that we've been doing that work review with the Workplace Specialist program. That is also wrapping up, and we should be able to share that to the extent we, I'm not sure how publicly we'll distribute some of that necessarily, but certainly on your end of things, if you're interested in seeing that information and kind of how that went, then we will make that available. In addition to reviewing the program, and they got a lot of survey responses, and I think it's gone well. We've been satisfied with that that vendor. They are also putting together like some state comparison briefs, I guess you might say, for 5 to 10 different states. So I think it'll be a good resource to see how instructor licensing, kind of alternative paths to instructor licensing, compare across different states. And that piece in particular is probably something we'll share with relevant internal people here, as we think about, like, for example, this dual credit study that that our agency and DOE have to put together, that Secretary General is responsible for delivering to the General Assembly next year, or things like that, where instructor licensing is going to be a big component of probably what's included in that. So that work is close to wrapping up as well. And then I think Audra already shared with everyone, but maybe Lindsay can dig into that, the workplace specialist licensure adjustment.
So that wasn't for anybody who is currently going through workplace specialist, or if you anticipate you'll have that next school year. There is an update to the TABE test, so it's a new version of that test. But there has also been an update to the policy for individuals who hold a bachelor's degree or higher. They will not be required to complete the TABE testing as part of the workplace specialist training program. So that should be updated on the DOE website in case you need to share written confirmation with anyone that that's the new policy. But thank you to Audra and the committee and all of the folks at DOE that that had to be involved to make that happen. So.
All right, I think that's it. I left some other slides in there in case a different topic came up, but I think that is what we had. I know we're over an hour, but any last questions from folks before we sign off today? All right. Thanks, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Talk to everyone soon.